Tammy, it just seems like an amazing amount of time to have to confront this. Has she ever been depressed by it or saddened, or does she always amaze you with her positive outlook?
You know, to say she never is depressed or upset about it would obviously, you know, she would be superhuman. But I can say that she always says to us, I'm going to stomp my feet today because I'm having a bad day, and then I'm going to get over it. And I know that this is, you know, I'm having a bad day, and it's okay. And it's always been about that. It's always been okay to have a bad day, and it's always been okay to cry and to say, you know, this isn't fair. But also she always says you thank God in the good and you thank God in the bad. Well,
you know, I'm so glad that you said that life is not always fair, because we're going to talk about that. Many breast cancer patients wonder why them and not someone else. So that's going to be something we're going to talk about in our next segment. Tammy, thank you so much. And like I said, our thoughts and our prayers will be with your mom, Joanne. Okay?
Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you. You as well. We'll take a short break, and we'll have some more amazing stories of survival, and they'll inspire you if you're facing this disease when we come back. Thanks for joining us once again as It's Your Call is joining the fight to spread awareness about breast cancer. I'm Lynn Doyle, and we're interested in hearing your stories about your experience with breast cancer. Are you a survivor? Would you be willing to share your experience with us and others to help inform and educate them? Or are you perhaps someone who's lost a loved one? If you'd like to have her story heard, we invite you to share that with us as well. You can email me directly at lynn@lynndoyle.net, or you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. Joining us now are more survivors who are equally as inspiring as our earlier guest. Meet Lisa Barsky. She's a 7-year breast cancer survivor. She had just reached her 5-year milestone when her husband was diagnosed with prostate cancer. They both used the services of the Cancer Support Community of Philadelphia, and they are now volunteers there. We're also joined by Margaret Zuccotti. She's a breast cancer survivor as well, who was diagnosed with stage 4 inflammatory breast cancer in 2006, shortly after the birth of her 3rd child. For the past 4 years, she has come in as the first survivor in the Philadelphia Susan G. Komen Race for the Cure. Margaret, Lisa, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for inviting us.
I am just moved, Margaret, by your story, in addition to others, but to hear that you had breast cancer right after giving birth. Can you share with us how traumatic that delivery, that news was?
Well, for anybody who's had a child, that's an exciting, busy, exhausting time in your life. And I was breastfeeding and felt a lump while I was breastfeeding, and really sort of poo-pooed it and thought it was nothing, and it didn't go away. And at the time I was 37. I'd never had a mammogram, and my doctor said, well, why don't you come in and we'll check you out. And I really, all along, I thought, this is nothing. It never occurred to me that this could be a problem. But a mammogram led to an ultrasound, led to a biopsy, led to the doctor who did the biopsy that day, without even getting the results back, saying, based on your presentation and what you've told me, I can tell you that you have breast cancer, and we need to learn more.
When you heard those words, you have breast cancer, did you fear that you might die from it, or did you have the attitude that I will be able to beat this no matter what the news is?
Well, when I was in the doctor's office that day, I hadn't even brought anybody with me. I had my 3-month-old in his little car bucket seat, because it didn't occur to me that I'd learned something this heavy right away. And so I recall going out into the parking lot and telling my husband to find a quiet place where we could talk. And I told him, and it was when I told the news to my husband that I think I felt the air rush out of out of my lungs, and that it really hit me hard. And yes, questions of my future came rolling at me faster than I could have even begun to imagine, but there was still so much more to learn. I didn't equate that with the end.
And you took it upon yourself to become an advocate for your own health, to learn everything that you needed to know about the kind of cancer that you had?
Yes, I was so fortunate. My sister-in-law and her husband were both doctors at the time, and they took me under their wing and helped me to understand what was going on, and we moved forward as quickly as we could to get a full diagnosis, because breast cancer does not run in my family, and I'm the youngest of 5 girls, and so it seemed amazing that this was happening, but as anybody who's gone through the cancer experience can tell you, one test leads to another, and that waiting is almost worse than the results sometimes, because the insecurity is so overwhelming. But we moved forward, and we did what we could, and then decided to move forward in getting the best treatment possible.
And that's exactly, Lisa, what you did. You actually embraced a different kind of philosophy in battling your cancer. You don't actually call it a fight, do you? You call it a dance.
Yes.
Explain that for us.
Well, I'm a very nonviolent person, and the battle imagery and living with the enemy just didn't work for me. So I imagined myself dancing with cancer, and I don't like to dance, and I'm a lousy dancer. But sometimes it'd be like the jitterbug, and sometimes it'd be like a slow waltz, and sometimes it'd be the tango, and cancer would let me down for the dip and then drop me. And there I was on the dance floor.
So who was leading, the cancer or you?
We were in it together, and I couldn't control it, but I did not want it to get my spirit. And each time I was on the floor, I would just kind of, what can you do? I'd dust myself off, I'd try to get up and get back dancing.
What was your prognosis when you were first diagnosed 7 years ago?
I was very fortunate. I detected it early, and I treated it with a mastectomy and threw everything that I could. And I'm hoping that it will stand there in the corner of the dance floor and just not cut in on my life again.
Yes, you would like cancer to be the wallflower in this dance of life, correct?
Exactly.
Now, I mentioned right before we took the break, and after we had spoken to Tammy, whose mom, Joanne, was battling or is continuing to battle breast cancer, that sometimes there's a feeling of, life is not fair. And I wanted to ask this question first of you, because here you battled or danced for, I'm so accustomed to saying battled, so I'm going to look at this with a different eye now, but you approached cancer for the last 7 years and have done everything that you can to keep it a wallflower in the dance. And then you hear that your husband has prostate cancer. How do you avoid saying, why me? Why is this all happening to me?
Well, I actually did some research to see what the odds would be, and they're not high. But I remember a person in my support group at the Cancer Support Community saying, we don't allow the F word in our house. We don't say fair or unfair. It's what we have. And
I was going to say, they're obviously not Irish. Because that's not the F word in our house. Just saying. Fair is exactly what I was talking about. So you don't use that. You don't ask whether it's fair or unfair.
We are. We're on the dance floor. We're in life. It's about living your life.
All right, ladies, tell me what you think about that. Did you ever have a time when you either were first diagnosed or when you were in the throes of battling it and when you were ill, that you looked up and you said, why me? Or does that serve no purpose?
I've definitely had moments where I questioned why me. I think the one that stands out the most, and I feel terrible about saying this, but all of my family, the women in the family, most of the women in the family had gotten the BRCA1 test, and I was the only one, aside from my mother, who had tested positive, and I just couldn't understand why did I have to test positive and not my sister? Why was I the one to test positive? Why was I the one to get cancer?
Not that you want them to
not
have
that I
it,
wanted
but you
her
just
to have
wonder what, why did the odds fall here? The odds don't fall that way when you're playing the lottery, do they?
No.
Never with the good stuff. No. So how did you deal with that sense of?
And I think for me, I didn't think about fair because I came from the mindset that breast cancer was prevalent in my family and it occurred in women at young ages. So I approached it more as not, is it going to happen? but when. And I think because I had this expectation that breast cancer would enter my life at some point, the fair part just wasn't in the front of my mind at all.
Well, if anybody was going to ask why, I would think Margaret, having just had a baby, it's like I have a new life I'm responsible for. Not that the other children aren't equally as important, but boy, you had to really dig down deep, I would imagine.
I did, and it was such a shock. And you know, when you're working on less than your desired amount of sleep, and you're trying to figure out your body and the rhythms of this new little baby, it did seem overwhelming. But also having that child there didn't allow me to stop and spend a lot of time thinking about myself.
I was just going to say, it was probably a great motivator for you as well,
yeah.
a reminder that we are here, you know, that there is life. So
Right.
I do have to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the other impacts that breast cancer can have. We all know about the physical impact. We've heard those stories, but there's some more that these ladies are going to be able to share with us, and we're going to hear some of your stories as well. If you'd like to join in, email me right now at lynn@lynndoyle.net or find us on Facebook. So we are talking about surviving breast cancer, and it's great when people have done that and then they share their stories to try to inspire or motivate others who are going through a very difficult time. Margaret, you made a very interesting point that I wanted to share with people quickly about holding on to things that you enjoyed or that you did or that were important before cancer, so that cancer just doesn't define you wholly.
Yes, I think it's really important for men and women dealing with a cancer diagnosis to remember that hobby, remember that pastime, to keep in touch with it. So that I'm a runner, for example, and so during the course of my treatment and since then, I did my best to stay active and keep running, because at that time I wasn't a cancer patient, I was a runner. I love photography also, and I often have my camera out taking pictures, and someone encouraged me to take pictures before losing my hair, and it's continued. And I think that the painter within you, or the golfer within you, or the reader within you, you have to make sure that you tell yourself you have to hold on to that, because that's who you are.
Right.
This
and
is
you don't want to lose
a new
that
element.
You don't
but
want to just
yes.
be defined
Yeah.
by the cancer. And
Yeah.
that's actually what Taisha writes about in her book, I Am Not My Hair, because you said that's the outward sign that you're battling cancer, dancing with cancer. But there are other things that can be affected too if you're not careful.
Most definitely. Cancer can affect relationships. I would interact with a lot of women from different groups, and they would mention how husbands were leaving them in the middle of their battles with cancer. It can strain friendships and relationships with family members, and people don't realize that that's the kind of effect that cancer can have.
That's one thing I did want to touch on. People sometimes don't know what to say when they hear, oh, my friend has cancer, a woman at work has cancer, or someone's daughter. What do you suggest? Having lived through it, what do women who have breast cancer want to hear?
I'm sorry, and how can I help? Not can I help, but how can I help? So that you can really direct the person to help you in a way that's going to be helpful.
And Elise, how
I
important is it
also
to have
think-
support and you know, a support group, whether it's your closest friends or not?
It's vital to have support, but support takes different forms. So each individual diagnosed with cancer has to figure out what's meaningful to her or to him and preserve that. But I also think as women, since we're talking about breast cancer, we're in the role of being caregivers so much of the time that one thing we need to learn is how to receive care. And to what Lisa said, how to ask for what you need, give jobs and responsibilities so that you can do the things, as Margaret said, that you enjoy while getting the support that you need.
Well, I'm glad that you guys all got the support that you needed when you were going through it, and I know that there's nothing definite, there's no tomorrow that's promised to any of us, but I wish you all the best of luck, and our thoughts and our prayers are with you. I'm so grateful for you to share your story so that it helps other women. So thank you. Be healthy. If you'd like to share your story with us, email me right now at lynn@lynndoyle.net and get a mammogram.